We're going to space for this one. Light speed. And what's up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of MUT Tips. I am your host, Sean Taylor from the Made Up Theater, where we're going to delve into a concept of improvisation. Once again, if you like the video, like it, comment below with maybe somebody you'd like to discuss in the future, share it. But other than that, let's get into something that's going to be a doozy. It's one of my favorite parts of improvisation, and it relates to improvising narratives. And we're going to focus today on the protagonist. So I'm going to be mostly focusing on the protagonists within improvised narratives, such as improvised plays, improvised movies, improvised stories of any kind that you perform on stage. It's like you're replicating what you see in a movie on the stage with no scripts or pre-planning. It's the actor's nightmare, but it's also the actor's dream, the improviser's dream especially. So, to get started, we're going to focus mostly on one particular protagonist, one of my personal favorites, and that is going to be Luke Skywalker. So I'm going to be focusing on Luke Skywalker's traits as a protagonist, as well as the moments he experiences as a protagonist in the movie Star Wars: A New Hope, Episode 4. So first of all, if you have not seen this movie, do it! And come back and watch this video. But other than that, let's get started. And let's just look at first with Luke Skywalker's introduction. About 17 minutes into the film, Luke Skywalker is introduced, and again, he's the main protagonist of the story. Before he's introduced, we have characters such as Princess Leia, C-3PO, R2-D2 introduced, but we're not really seeing them as the protagonist of the story. They're definitely important characters, especially Princess Leia, but Princess Leia is immediately kidnapped. R2-D2 and C-3PO, they're comedic characters. They're definitely the focus of the story in the early going, but they're mainly a vessel to get to Luke. And when we do get to Luke Skywalker, we get to see a great scene where he's introduced, the music kind of flourishes, and the director is telling you, this is the protagonist. As we as improvisers, we need to show the audience who the protagonist is right off the bat. And essentially, Luke Skywalker's character is, that of a child. He's a young adult, he's treated like a child by Uncle Owen, who kind of orders him around, and he also feels stuck. He's stuck in this status of being just a farm boy who won't leave the planet. He's destined to just be here forever, it seems like. There's a great scene where you see him playing with a toy spaceship, and it shows that he has ambition to just leave. He's going back to his childhood state of just playing make-believe, and he dreams of something different. And there's also a great scene where he talks to Uncle Owen about, his future, and he wants to go to academy early, but the harvest is coming, so Uncle Owen says, oh, next year, you can go next year. You stay here and just help me, and then next year you'll go. So it's a promise that may never come, essentially. So again, Luke feels stuck, and we as audience members empathize with that because we in our lives have felt stuck before. So right off the bat, Luke Skywalker is a dynamic character. He's vulnerable, he feels stuck, and he wants to get out. And we'll get to what his actual want is in just a bit, but there's a little bit of a preview of it when he actually goes outside and sees the two suns in the sky, like over the horizon. And there's a great musical score that's playing, and you can see he wants something. He dreams of something better to get him out of the situation that he's in. So Luke isn't 100% sure what he wants, but he wants something. And in order to find it, as well as to learn more about himself and to get the audience to care, Luke needs to lose. He needs to go through heartbreak. He needs to go through struggles. And there's 3 big moments in this movie that really encapsulate who he is as a character and get us as the audience empathizing with him and rooting for him. So Luke's first loss coincides with essentially his realization for what he truly wants throughout the rest of the trilogy. And that happens after he meets up with Obi-Wan Kenobi, who kind of informs him on the ways of the Jedi and the ways of the Force, and tries to convince him to train with him. But Luke, as a protagonist, generally these types of characters will feel stuck to the point where they can't even make choices. Hamlet is a good example. He procrastinated a lot because he couldn't make a choice. He couldn't make a decision. Luke's in this spot too, where even though he wants to leave Tatooine, he still feels bound here because of his responsibilities to his family, and also the threat of failure. If he goes with Obi-Wan, there's a chance that he might fail, there's a chance that he might die, there's a lot of things that could go wrong in this situation. So he naturally wants to maybe avoid it and not take that leap. But there's a moment that happens when essentially Luke finds his way back home because of threat to his family and finds that his aunt and uncle are dead. And this is the moment that leads to essentially his realization through this heartbreaking situation where now his only family has died. He realizes,
I want to learn the ways of the Force and become a Jedi like my father.
So that's his first loss. Again, a very important loss because it helps him realize what he wants in life. And it also shows him as a vulnerable character. He lost his family members, which means that we can empathize with him further. Which brings us to his second loss. And this comes a little bit later in the film when they're on the Death Star trying to escape. And there's a moment when they get to the point when they are escaping and Obi-Wan and Darth Vader are having a confrontation. But when Luke Skywalker realizes the peril that Obi-Wan's in, Obi-Wan chooses to sacrifice himself and allow Darth Vader to kill him. And at that point, this becomes one of the most important losses in the film because now Luke has not only lost his family members, he's lost his mentor. He's lost the person who gave him purpose in life, the person who was going to train him in the arts of the Jedi. And at this point, he's at the most low he has been. When they escape, there's a moment when he's just contemplating and Princess Leia is trying to comfort him. And Princess Leia even says there was nothing you could do. And this actually harkens back to when Obi-Wan said the same thing. There was nothing you can do to save your aunt and uncle. And this just brings upon a sense of hopelessness to Luke. He feels that he can no longer actually save the people that he loves. And he wants to get to that point, but at this moment he's at a low where you can't really contemplate being able to do that. So this brings us to the final low point of the movie, and again another important one because it comes right before Luke's transformation in character, his arc. And that happens in the trenches of the Death Star when Luke and his Rogue Squadron are going in for that final shot to take down the Death Star once and for all. And at this moment, they've made attempts, but they're failing. Pilots are dropping left and right, and we're down to the final three. Luke Skywalker alongside Wedge Antilles, as well as Biggs. And Wedge Antilles gets shot, and he doesn't die, but he has to leave, which means he's left with just Biggs. And Biggs is actually a really important character. He's a bit downplayed in this movie, but this is a character who's referenced early on as a childhood friend when Luke is on Tatooine. And they reunite. There's even a deleted scene that kind of explains a little bit more about their friendship. And they're close with each other. They're happy to be with each other, but there's a moment, of course, which is probably the biggest low point of this Death Star attack, and that's when Biggs dies. And at that point, there's a face shot of Luke where it kind of shows a sense of just hopelessness. He might fail. He's probably going to fail because Darth Vader and two Imperial TIE fighters are right behind him about to take him out. So, there's this moment when the audience also feels it. Luke is on his own. He may fail, and then all hope is lost for the Rebel Alliance. So these three losses are super important to Luke Skywalker's character because it shows to the audience that he is not impervious to heartbreak, to struggle, and to defeat. We get to see him be vulnerable in these situations, and thus it helps create an arc for his character. And this comes in the moment when he communicates with Obi-Wan Kenobi, who tells him to use the Force and to let go. And at this moment, he is able to turn off his targeting computer and just trust what is inside of him. Trust that he will become a Jedi. Even though Obi-Wan is dead, that is still his want and that is still his goal, and he will succeed in this moment. But there's still dramatic tension because he's by himself. He has the Force, but he's still got Darth Vader and two TIE fighters behind him about to take him out. And thus, another arc happens when the returning Han Solo puts aside his arrogance and saves the day. And at that point, Luke can take the shot and destroy the Death Star. And that is an arc, folks, for this show of A New Hope. It is his biggest moment because of all the struggling. He's no longer just a farm boy anymore. He is now becoming a Jedi Master. All right, so that wraps up this video, everybody. Star Wars A New Hope, it's a great movie. And this is just one example of a protagonist. It's not the only way to go about it. I just think it's a nice, easy one. When we do improv narratives, it always helps to start out easy. We don't want to do like Tarantino Protagonist right off the bat. We've got to build up to that. So check out that movie if you haven't seen it, or just watch it again. It's a great film. Again, this is important when you're doing improvised narrative. You got to have a strong protagonist. A protagonist who essentially has struggles, flaws, and overcomes them and reaches his arc and his transformation in the end. And we get a satisfying conclusion. Thank you so much for watching this video of MUT Tips. I'll be here next Tuesday with another video. Again, if you liked the video, like down below. Leave a comment with something you'd like to address in the future. And, share it as well. And if you're on YouTube, feel free to hit that subscribe button. Other than that, I will see you all next week. Enjoy yourselves and have a great day. Make it so.